You ready? Okay. All right, the time is now 8:13 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. For the record, if any person who participated believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns for the record. Hearing none, next item is public hearing on ordinance number 2021-665. Maureen, did you want to introduce this, or do you want me to just go right into it?
You can go right into it, Mayor, if it's okay with you. I do believe that there's probably an attendant. I'm looking at the meeting here who, I'm not sure if Mr. Bush is there physically in the room with you all or not, but
He is.
wanted to speak to the board. So I think you need to reopen the public hearing, and then the option on the table for the board after you hear from whoever is there to speak is to continue the public hearing to another future date certain, or to close the public hearing tonight and then decide whether you want to take action. So that's up to the board.
All right, and with that, I will open up the public hearing at 8:14 and take testimony. Question?
Myself is here similar to Mayor, Trustees, Mark Bush, 905 West 124th, Westminster, Colorado. I don't know if we still do that or not, but that's why I always used to do it back in the day. But hey, good to see everybody again. It's nice to be all together in the room and get an opportunity, particularly for the newer trustees, to get to see you again and get you all a better feel for myself. I've been working here in town, as I said last time, we were joking about it out front there, since 2004, 2003. But it's not only myself here today, but similarly to the last meeting where we discussed this, the representative from Otten Johnson, Rag and Eddie's on the internet, so to speak. But I thought I'd let Bill kind of reiterate. I don't necessarily want to rehash, I thought, too much, but we do want to continue to articulate our feeling that where we are in our planning process, our vested rights, the setback that we've already provided around our oil and gas activities out there, we think are completely adequate, and that we're kind of caught here at the very end. Staff and some of you council members are aware that we want to move forward and plat the remainder of our project, but we have long-term vested rights and frankly, a deep economic commitment and a deep psychological commitment to the growth of Lac Bowie. And we kind of feel like this is coming at us at the, at the 1 yard line. And, as we expressed before, we think there's a number of reasons why this project should be exempt from the ordinance. I thought I might turn it over to Bill to let him kind of reiterate those vested rights discussion, and then I'd kind of close up our portion of the conversation. Does that will work for you, the trustees, or is there any immediate questions that you'd like to ask, or make sense?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll hit the button here. Bill, is that?
Yep. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So my name is Bill Kuriagis. I'm the attorney for Lac Bowie Land. I'm an attorney with Otten Johnson. Our address, to the extent you need it, is 950 17th Street in Denver, Suite 1600. I want to thank the board for giving us an opportunity to speak on this. You've heard from me and from my client a few times on this. In fact, I think we are the only public input you've received on this ordinance. And I do think that's worth noting. As far as we've been able to tell, my client is the only developer that's likely to be immediately impacted by this ordinance. It may impact some other properties in the future as land is annexed into the town, but for all of those properties, the property owners will know what the rules are when they annex their property into the town. There's not going to be any surprise for them, and there's nothing unfair about that. That's not the case for my client. My client's been developing the Blue Lake project for about 17 years. They've made tens of millions of dollars in investments and financing commitments based on the rules that were in place. And that's why the town granted them vested property rights for this project, which was in recognition of the fact that they need to maintain a stable regulatory environment to make this kind of a long-term development viable. This reverse setback ordinance now, unfortunately, was not expected and was not planned, and it's going to cause a significant negative financial impact for my client's project. And at the same time, it's not going to protect anyone from surprise from new oil and gas facilities near their home. And in fact, it's designed to protect people from themselves. I think we heard at the last meeting, there isn't any particular sort of science behind the numbers here. And we've got, the 350-foot setback that would be applicable to the site we're talking about. And we have a situation where we already have a built-in buffer of well over 200 feet. When it gets time to actually design the specific lot layout for this area, my client has an incentive to make sure they design the project and lot configuration in a way that people will want to buy homes, and to ensure that the lots are appealing to people. But nobody's going to be surprised by something when they buy in, knowing that this stuff is already on the ground. We don't have any problem with this kind of ordinance applying to new projects in the future. That's fair. But changing the rules here in the middle of the project is a real problem. We proposed an exemption that's tied to the project having vested rights. We believe that's fair and it's reasonable. Frankly, if you pass the ordinance with the objection, I don't think anyone's going to complain. No one showed up to speak in support or in opposition other than us on this ordinance. And as far as we know, no one has expressed any other concern or opinion about the exemption specifically. So what we're asking for the reasons we raised in the last couple of meetings on this, is that the town respectfully either reconsider the ordinance or at least include the exemption with the language we proposed, to ensure that there's not an unfair surprise sprung on my client 17 years into the course of their project.
Go ahead.
I have a question, and certainly we've talked about it, but can you quantify the number of plotted pieces of land that would be potentially impacted by this?
Trustee, maybe I'm a little more qualified to answer that for Bill, but the way we have our easement design right now, it's over 250 feet away from it. If we push that out 100, we haven't done I was explaining to Mr. Stamier a little bit earlier, I mean, it costs thousands of dollars for us to go back and replat that entire area. We had a basic concept plan where we've overlaid certain elements of the setback requirements, but it's not an exact science. There's an art to it also too, because you have to think about road designs and things of that nature. But I can tell you that your typical lot out there would be 90 to 100 feet deep. To the extent that we extend that boundary out another 100 feet, that's certainly one row of lots for the whole. Let's just take, for example, the whole perimeter. My guess is my estimation, this is not a guesstimate, this is from my experience, that not only is a layer of lots around the entire envelope that we've already platted out there or provided in terms of the easement, there'll be implications for infrastructure. It's not like you have to want to don't want to get too much into this math's a little tough to, I'm empathetic. Okay. Infrastructure implications, road tie-ins, sanitary connections, it all has a large domino effect. So it's not as simple as like, oh, we're going to move it out 100 feet and it's just one lot on the entire perimeter. There's complications in terms of the infrastructure. So my guess is probably 50 additional lots that we've already done. And going back to Bill's comment, I think that we acted responsibly as developers in terms of the easement that we provided, the buffer. It's over 13 acres, which conceptually is a probably tough thing to get your hands around, but just think about your own lot that you may live on and anticipate what that, or you can visualize what that would look at 13 and a half acres. So we've had to behave that way, responsibly coming into it.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Hi, Mark. I'm trying to think about how to put my words correctly together. It's been a long day. Had you already been in like conception phase of development of this project prior to Crestone Peak coming in to develop the wells?
That's a really good question. But that's a really good question. You know, the history's so long out there. Crestone's only been involved since 2017, but those minerals have been leased since the early 2000s. But we know the drill pad was designed, say, 2016 or so. The USR that Crestone is building under was permitted, their wells were permitted by the town through the USR process in 2018. And I think that I think Bill's a little bit more eloquent in this, is that we've been planning around this. The towns had full knowledge that this is going to happen there since 2018, well before Senate Bill, they're all passing through, and the larger setback debate's been going on in the community. But I've expressed this to town council this morning, is, we developers, we thought we were behaving very well. In fact, we were well beyond the town's now current standard, which is 150 feet well setback, which was what the Eppinger property, like Bowie Station, was platted on within the last 18 months. And we're just kind of late to the dance. We don't have a formal plat done, but we still believe we have strong vested rights and strong relationships here in the town that to move the goalposts actually to us when we're just about to go forward on it, we think is a violation of our rights, and we want the town to consider. And Bill expressed it also too, and I explained it in a previous meeting. There's only 3 active well pads in the town. It's the Black Bowie Station, Altamira, and our piece. And we're the only active developer project that will be immediately impacted by the ordinance as it is now written or proposed. And I think we're asking for that exemption. We think we behave responsible in terms of our setbacks we provided. So I don't know if that answers it for Jeffy, but Jamie, I don't have a specific date though that'll no.
Okay, and so you said that those rights have been leased for 20 years or so. Who is it leased to? Do you know?
It's leased to Crestone. It was originally, it's minerals are, Matt could attest that it's amazing. Minerals are real property. And that they were leased originally to Noble Energy. Then they were also then released to Extraction. In Extraction, we had no voice in Extraction, then Crestone traded for that lease, or I'm not sure how they became into ownership of it.
But you, or the developer, has leased it. That's
Yeah,
who the
correct.
original lease is with.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I think that the decision was made to do the lease and the surface use agreement in reliance on there not being this extra setback. I think if the decision were being evaluated today, knowing that there is going to be these reverse setback issue, it's potentially different analysis. That's really the sort of fundamental nature of our concern here. Is that decisions were made both with respect to the development and also with respect to the extraction element of this, based on the rules that were in place. And if the town adopts this ordinance for future projects and future oil and gas is decisions are made based on the new ordinance, and future development decisions are based on the new ordinance, that at least has some predictability.
Do you have something else, Mark?
Bill's exactly right. We would have, the cost-benefit analysis of having that on our property, it changes the whole dynamic. And now I know that's not of your concern, but I think, Bill, we've made decisions based upon the historical setbacks within the community. And we actually went beyond those historical setbacks, because we have already worked with, I want the trustees to also know that it's all midstream based. A lot of the heavy nuisance that went on, and we have water pipe to our project, we have gas midstream, I don't know if everybody's familiar with that terminology. In oil midstream, there's going to be very little trucking going on unless to the extent there's a problem in the midstream pipe, but all of it's going to be a very quiet site. And we've worked with not only the town standards, but with Crestone on enhanced landscaping buffers. So trees and things of that nature that will really help screen it. We're not just planning on putting a COGCC approved chain link fence around the piece. We recognize the economic impact of having oil and gas conflict, and we thought that we mitigated it very appropriately when we did our surface use agreement with them.
I've got a question just about what happens, let's say you guys get lucky and that well runs for 30 years. What happens in 30 years when that well stops producing and we get into reclamation and a workover rig, which is required to remove that equipment, requires a clearance of 165 feet?
Well, our setbacks right now are well beyond 165 feet. Our setbacks really right now vary from anywhere from 240 feet to, they're all over 200 feet from any equipment.
Okay, I thought you
So
guys
the
were asking
workover
for
rigs,
150.
to help the trustees, they come in and they repressurize and try to kick them back up, give them new life, because the depletion on these wells are really aggressive. I mean, you probably know even better, Bill. Within the first 5 years, the production drops dramatically, and then they come in with the workover. The workover rig's not much more obtrusive than what you would see in terms of drilling a shallow irrigation well.
Right, I was just worried about the
like
clearance
you know
of
what
that
you're
rig.
talking about, yeah.
It needs 165 feet, and I thought you guys
Yeah,
were
we have that
asking-
already in there. In fact, Bill has do you have that, Bill, by any chance? I have it on my phone. We did one diagram, and the eastern setback that we have going east off 4 wells is like 240 feet.
Can I share my screen real quick? I can kind of just show and explain. I want to make sure there's not any confusion about kind of what we're talking about here.
Yes, you should be able to do.
Great.
Yeah, Bill, thank you. I've got it on my phone. I could email it to you, but.
1 second here.
When we, just to kind of complement that, when we did that surface use agreement with them prior to 2018, we were progressive in terms of the setbacks that we were doing from our oil and gas. It sounds kind of cliche-ish, but I'm not patting myself on the back or anything to that effect, but we were well beyond kind of all of our comparable town standards. Fort Lupton, Hudson, they're all like 150 feet, Firestone, Frederick, from existing wells. Obviously, the climate in that has changed, but when we did that, we were well beyond kind of what was the norm prior to the heightened sensitivity to the issue.
Okay. Can you see this on the screen?
Yeah, Bill, put the one up there that had that distance that you had.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there you go. Why don't you go ahead, Bill?
what we were saying is the previous, and this was a state imposed standard, the previous reverse setback, there wasn't one in the town, but there was a state COGCC thing of 150 feet. Our point is not that we are asking for 150 feet. We're saying we already have more than that. So this is just an example. This measurement shows to the edge, that sort of graded area, the larger square that you can see right where the number 235.28 is. That's essentially the outer perimeter of the oil and gas easement that is granted to the operator. So there's nothing that is going to be developed within that area. And, this is just a Google Maps measurement, but it shows about 235 feet. So it's significantly over 150 feet. And you can see some of the landscaping buffering that'll exist there in between that. And there will be another sort of undeveloped area to get it all the way out to the edge of that. Our concern really is this space where the red circles go out beyond that easement area, which takes it into 350 feet, which we are concerned extends beyond the easement area, both to the east and to the south. It actually extends beyond a utility easement to the south. So there's potentially lots on both the south and the east, and maybe a little bit even on the north. but all of that there's certainly plenty of room for 160 foot or even 200 feet between the equipment and the edge of the oil and gas easement, and quite a bit of room actually on the west side and the north side as well. Just if there were some need for equipment or something like that. And part of the concern that we have is that the lots in this project are sort of narrow and compact, and so it's a pretty significant swath of lots that are swept up in these red circles that extend beyond the easement area.
If I could add to that, Bill, to the trustee's question about how many lots we would lose, I mean, if you look at how the circumference of those red, we basically just have to push out and, where we kind of comes in and bends and so on. This is kind of my developer world I'm living in, but you just got to kind of drop a straight line there and you're going to have some awkward shaped lots. I mean,
What are your lot sizes on average, about 50 by 100?
Yeah, well, we thought we might even do a little bit bigger there, frankly, just because it's on the further west side of the project. But yeah, 50 by 100 has been kind of our standard go-to. Builders, excuse me. I got respect for you guys, for old warriors, got through here tonight, but our builders have asked us actually to maybe potentially explore 45-foot lots. I don't think that they belong right here, but maybe a little bit further east on our project. But 50 by 100 is our general thought, Mayor.
Have anything else?
But that, I want to reiterate the fact that, we think we behaved responsibly coming forward, and we're kind of getting this tossed at us. I get it. I think Bill was on target, and we understand the public safety and finding the appropriate factor as we go forward in the town. But we've spent a lot of energy, and our timing is just, for this ordinance, for our project, where it is right this second, is very difficult.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Bill, would you have anything else to add, or?
I don't, unless there are other questions. We're just concerned. I mean, and part of the, I think, frustration here is that as a practical matter, the way this applies today, it's really a negative impact to this project and not necessarily beyond that. For the long range planning of the town, we certainly understand why you'd want to do it. But again, just as sort of a fairness issue, to impose this burden here is difficult.
It adds a layer of uncertainty for us, for sure. But thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other questions, Mayor, or anybody?
I don't think anyone else had anything else? No?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I just said it's not an either or. I mean, I think, Bill, we're just really at the timing's we're just kind of clashing right here at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, could you turn thank you.
Yeah, I will.
All right, I think I'm going to close up the public hearing. And I think the board is in, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we continue the hearing to our first meeting in June.
That?
Why the first meeting, everything the first meeting?
I thought a lot were already for the second meeting in May.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Yes.
Trustee Ott. Yes. Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos, Trustee Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
And motion carries. And with that, we'll close the public hearing at 8:36, and this will be revisited on the first meeting in June. And why is there a fly in here? All right, next item is the events discussion. And thank you for coming in, Mark. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to discuss the events. Anyone want to grab the ball and run with this?
Could I just do just a brief? So we have been talking with a couple of potential contractors to help coordinating a special event and doing the logistics for this. And one of them had sent us some questions. We were working with approximately around $25,000 for this event. So, and one of the vendors, one of the contractors, kind of wants to have a little better idea of what the community and what the board's looking for in terms of an event. What kind of activities, how big, how much. So if you could give us some guidance, are we, so 2 years ago, we did more of a scaled down Community Appreciation Day event where it started mid-afternoon. We had food vendors and a band, and then fireworks at dusk. And so I just need input, a little bit of what the board would be looking at for event ideas this year.
Okay. Anyone want to open the floor? I'd love to see us go back to something in the fall, doing the fall festival, something along those lines, and, even if it's a scaled down version. Have they given us any kind of their numbers, what they're looking at? I understand they're going to need some events and things of that nature, but what their costs are?
I don't right now. They're just kind of trying to get a better feel for what they're should put together.
Well,
I think we're looking at a data.
I definitely would like to start where we were at 2 years ago,
Okay.
at least at a minimum. I'd like to see how that goes.
So I was really heavily involved in planning the last fall festival that we had. And so I want to start where the mayor has suggested we start. I think, I'm just going to share really quickly that one of my favorite things after we moved to Lockwood was going to the fall festival with my boys, and just the fun time that it was. We really enjoyed some of the children's activities that were available, and the fireworks have always been something that we look forward to as a community, like to sit out with our neighbors and watch those go off. So I definitely I know that there's some hardships with that, some challenges, but I'd like to see if that's possible. The other thing that we've always really loved as a family was that 5K fun run, and I think we could do that pretty inexpensively. So maybe adding that on. I don't want to get too complicated, but those are the things that I would prioritize.
Feel free, whatever you got, just throw it out there.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll throw out, I don't have as close a tie with the school district anymore, but somebody else does. They had done the We Care Fun Run a couple of times, and I wonder if they might want to partner with our town and maybe take on the 5K to support their cause to go along with and celebrate our festival. I understand that we have a limited, budget, but that could be a way where we could see more things happening and build the relationship that we have with our school district.
No, that's always been one thing I loved doing was I used to do the haunted houses for the town every year, and the one thing I did was go to the drama up in Weld Central, and I'd get some of those kids, and they'd come out and they loved doing it. They just wanted to be a part of it. So I think that's a great idea. I think that'd be something to actually, like you said, the fun run itself. Go ahead.
One more thing, I loved the bike safety that we did a couple of years ago when we handed out the hot dogs. Maybe bike safety or something could also be tied in to make this bigger, but,
I know that was something you guys did, right, Chief? The bike
Yeah,
safety.
we've done the public safety day with the bike rodeo, and then we had all the vendors, like we had United Energy was there with their demonstration about how dangerous electricity could be when they blew up the watermelon off, like the dummy with watermelon head. Kind of gave a good indication of how dangerous that was. We also had all the fire department, the paramedics, the rescue,
You had the little car crash simulator.
No, we tried to get that from State Patrol. I think we did have it one year.
Did have it one year.
But we have been doing it for many years now. And, I don't know how you intertwine that together, depending on what you're doing with the fall festival part. I don't know. We handed out the free hot dogs and ice cream, and I don't know if you do that when you're trying to have food vendors sell things, or maybe you do this in the morning, because that's usually when we did this. We did the bike rodeo public safety part in the morning, or
It'd be a great thing to do, kind of a whole day kind of.
yeah, into early afternoon, and then you could start the fall festival activities after that, something like that. I think we'd be willing to
think
to
that'd be
to
a
try to
great-
combine that somehow.
That'd be a great idea. And we have, some of that funding that we have in there, do we have that earmarked for the police department, Steve, or is it just all one fund?
I don't remember.
Okay.
So I know that it's all, I think it's all just one fund, but we
Okay.
kind of broke it out to say there's money in, or were, the previous budgets, there was some set aside for the Halloween event, for the public safety days. Neither one of those costs the kind of money that putting together the fall festival
Yeah.
does.
No, I just want to make sure we do have the funding to be able to do that. And, no, I think that'd be a great thing. Maybe if you guys are, up for it, doing the public safety day, in the morning, and then we work towards
Right.
I think that'd be a great thing.
We also try to, the officers that arrange this, try to go out and get donations from local businesses and do that kind of thing. And if we do this and we have the free hot dogs, I would invite the trustees to come out and serve those hot dogs. It's an opportunity to be engaged with the community doing
Most
that.
definitely. And free slave labor. It's, No, I like it, I like it. So, anyone have anything else they want to throw in there? Because I think it's great. Now, I think we're just looking at the one event right now for this year, just because of the way things have gone, and I think I would relish having that happen, and, having you guys, and at least now you have plenty of time to be able to plan for your side as well, I would think.
Yeah, are we looking at September maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
If I can
go ahead.
take the mic one more time, I really think we need to do an Oasis Day. That
Well,
was,
yeah,
so-
we're
I
gonna
mean,
work on that as
I
well.
don't want it to be like Fall Festival to be the only thing we do, but that Oasis night was a lot of fun and we had a really great turnout.
Yeah, and I believe Steve's gonna be contacting them. Am I mistaken on that? You're gonna be contacting them and checking with them on the availability and the ability to do that. Because that's a great thing too, especially when it's just Loch Buoy residents at the Oasis. It's really a good, community building thing. Anyone have anything else? No? Anything else you need, Steve, as far as figuring that out or planning or giving them an idea?
I think that gives me a better idea of where to start from.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Town Administrator Report.
So I think I can be fairly brief. The main thing I wanted to update the board is that I did have a meeting with Colorado Department of Transportation. It was a follow-up meeting we had probably over a year ago, but apparently there's, CDOT has indicated the ability to implement this Mustang service between Denver and Sterling. And for Loch Buoy, it'd be a 2-day-a-week service. I think it was on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they're going to have a company come out and look at some potential bus stop sites. It's not a very involved site. It'd be more like just a little bump out in a road. And I've got a couple of ideas on either the Loch Buoy center side or the proposed Quick Trip side, of how we could incorporate that. So 2 days a week, it would be between Denver and Sterling. Then there are 3 days a week that has a Greeley route, but Loch Buoy is not on the Greeley route. But it would give, the ability for people to, to ride that and either going into Denver or out east and, and get back. So we'll follow up with that, and
Yeah.
that could
Can't
start
wait to
as
take the
soon
bus to
as.
Sterling.
Pardon?
Can't wait to take the bus to
Sure,
Sterling.
but that could be implemented as soon as early fall.
Gotcha.
I think it'd be a good service for us. That's the main update, unless you have other questions.
Anyone have anything for Mr. Stamey? No? Okay, thank you, Steve. All right, Mayor and trustee comments. Trustee White?
I just want to note that residents do want to see about getting the resident rate at the Oasis. I know that's a big ask, but residents asked me to bring that up, as well as updating the website just to be easier to navigate. You type something in and it just does not give you really good results. So that's all I got.
Trustee Kimmerly?
May sound like a broken record, but I have two pieces of transportation updates that I did want to share. Tomorrow morning in the State House, a 190-page bill will be submitted to continue the transformation to an all-electric vehicle state. Highlights of that bill include road usage fee that will start at 2 cents and increase a cent a year to the total of 8. There's a clean truck fee that will be addressing diesel vehicles that will start at 6 cents a year and will increase a cent every year up to 8 cents. For those of you that are fortunate and rich enough to own an electric vehicle, the fee, not a tax, will be increasing $50 on top of that. So other items of note is that if you get delivery, either from Amazon or food delivery, there will be a surcharge added to that as well. So there's many different ways they're looking at replacing the gas tax with fees.
Now, let me ask something real quick on that, because I've read that. Now, and one thing I didn't, that I just thought of is, because you use the word replace, is it replacing it or is it adding on to?
It's going to be a replace, as it stands, and granted, it has to go through the House and then through the Senate, and probably it's not going to look the same in both chambers, but as it stands, it is to be a replacement for,
Gotcha.
not in addition to. And the second transportation piece is, and this was news to me, learning again from a lot from Dr. Cog and certainly with RTD, and knowing that there's been interest around town certainly to become part of that. But let me share some buyer's remorse on once you start paying, you're stuck for life. Within the last 6 months, the city of Parker have had most of their bus lines eliminated. So they're paying nearly $13 million and getting almost nothing in return. Current state law prevents them from withdrawing. So there needs to be a piece of special legislation that would need to pass both chambers of the General Assembly and then signed by the governor. But it's not that easy. Any debt that incurred while you belong, you have to stay until it's paid off. So if there was such a piece of legislation in the General Assembly and it would pass, Parker would have to stay to 2050.
Is that the RTD?
Yep, and recently there's been significant pushback. For the last 20 years, Longmont and Boulder has been promised and paying for a light rail line. And it looks like that is going to be scrapped and not be financially feasible. And again, they've been stuck in paying for that for the last 20 years. And again, if they do get granted permission to leave, they're not going to be able to leave until the debt that was incurred while they were paying into that tax, into the RTD tax, into the system is again paid off. So I share that bit of information because a lot of it was new to me. And so I think it's important to, when coming across this information, is disseminating and sharing it, because there's a lot of strings attached.
Wait, I gotta ask this now. You just said there was a bus gonna be coming through, and we're not gonna pay an RTD tax on that, right?
That's different.
Drag us into that.
Mustang is different. It's
Yeah.
totally different funding stream from DOT.
I was just pulling two
No.
pieces together. Okay.
Well, if you need to go to Sterling, you can visit, if you need to, visit someone at the state facility up there.
Else to that. There was something else to that. Oh, it'll come to me later, but continue. Okay. All right, Trustee Ott.
CML Effective Governance webinar is Friday, June 18th. The town will pay for it. It's $40 for members, and it's well worth your time. It's a great introduction to your role as a newly elected official. Topics included effective relationships with the media, open meetings laws, and standards. Speakers include CML President Bob Widener, who's Marine's partner, General Counsel David Broadwell, and serves the people. It's a really good webinar. I would suggest all new trustees take it. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Jeffrey?
Just a couple of things. Like, first of all, I want to say thank you to Steve and for his willingness to work alongside the new town administrator, and to say that I really do support paying him the full amount for his PTO. I just would like to know what the figure is. Second of all, I was appointed to the library board, so I am now on the Hudson Library Board. And I need to ask to be excused from our meeting on May 18th because my daughter has her last band concert of her high school career. And I feel like I should go to that. And finally, I really think that when we're dealing with all these COVID frustrations or, feeling challenged, we should start saying, "Scumbaffle!" I just like how that sounds. Don't you? Scumbaffle.
There is truly something ominous about that word. I have to give you that. Trustee Westcott?
I'm just going to piggyback for a second on something that Trustee White said, which is that I'm wondering if we can use maybe some CARES funding to make an overhaul of our website to make it more contactless in terms of information dissemination. I just feel like every time I've ever gone on there to try and find information, it's been very difficult to find, just trying to find the recycling schedule. Like, you have to go 6 feet deep to try and actually get to it. And I feel like that could be much more useful to our residents if it was better searchable, if the layout was designed with some of the information that we need right off the top, right up front. So I guess I'm just wondering if we can sort of finagle that with CARES money, because it would go towards this like contactless information system. So other than that, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
I like your idea. That's something I hadn't thought of, and that's really, if we can make it happen, I'm sure Steve and Ms. Rademacher can figure that out. And I must echo that the website has been some levels of consternation for me as well. I've actually going in to try and look for permits, and I pull up a blank page. Like, error 404, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, just looking up, if you want to find out who your trustees are, I just try and do that. You gotta actually go down a rabbit hole to find. So it's something I think we really need to work over as our website. The one thing I did want to touch on, and I've spoken with Mr. Stamey a little bit about it, but we're going to be looking for a new clerk. There was talk of letting the dust settle and figure things out, but I don't think we want to wait too long. I think it's a very important position, and I know right now we're in the process of hiring a new city manager, but I definitely want to have, as soon as we can secure the new city manager, we start immediately into hiring the new clerk position, because it's right now, I've made my position clear that I'm a little, we have great staff in place, and I know we're going to be fine, but I always get a little nervous when we start having those issues of this, new city manager coming in. Steve's going to be here, but we don't have a clerk. We have someone who's very capable, and that's in Jamie Jeffrey, as well as Miss Sanchez. But I don't want to overuse them, and I don't want to, put stresses on them and make it difficult for them. So I want to reiterate to them that you guys have our support, and we're definitely going to be making it into the next phase, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that, there was one other thing, and I didn't know if you wanted to touch on it, Chief, was the shelter-in-place thing.
I did. Okay, so I don't know if everybody knows, because I didn't forward, think anybody else knows, right, about so Trustee White sent me an email on Sunday, I think it was, reference a shelter-in-place order that went out through a reverse 911 on Saturday. I don't think anybody in here probably would have gotten that. It was down here in Old Town Willow Place, Willow Court area. But it was a 6-block radius. And so she had emailed and asked about, because she didn't know about it. So she had citizens asking her about what's going on with this, and then felt, I guess felt awkward at least, right? When you didn't have answers to give them, and they didn't appreciate that you didn't have answers, right? So I think you might run into that a little bit when you're on the board. In those situations sometimes, in a variety of situations, probably when you're not going to have the answers everybody thinks you should have. But I don't think there's any way you can know everything. But I wanted to talk about
Yourself.
What's that?
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I know you know everything. I appreciate that. So in her email to me, she talked about wanting to have knowledge of this and be notified of shelter in places and what that's about. So when she gets these questions, she has answers. And so I'm going to try to explain to you a little bit about what the shelter in place is when it happens and why that really may not be a feasible situation. I'll use this case for example, right? So we're dispatched to a call. The officer on duty, and there were 2 on at the time this happened, they get dispatched to a call that this lady said that she was pistol whipped, and the man had with his pistol and was threatening to shoot her, and he had just went across the street or something. I didn't read the full report on it, but so we get there, and they're trying to get the guy to come out because they think that he's armed, so they're just trying to get him to come out. And they do that this time, in this case, and this is not going to be the case all the time, but in this case, they decided to use the bullhorn on their car and saying his name, asking him to exit the residence with his hands up so they can talk to him. Well, he doesn't do that initially, and of course, you get residents now that hear this, so everybody else is coming out except the guy they want to talk to, right? Which makes sense, I guess. So the sergeant who was working asked for the reverse 911, hoping that those people that were out there would now go back inside. Didn't work. I think it actually did the opposite. Sounds like more people wanted to know what was going on after getting that. So they came out to see. But that shelter-in-place order went into effect at, I'm thinking 8:30, 8:40. Handy dandy, getting old. Went into effect at shelter in place at 8:40 is when that went out. So shortly after that, the guy did come out of his house, and he didn't have a weapon. There was no weapon. Turns out there never was a weapon. Turns out there was none of it was real. So. But through the course of that investigation, they didn't get back on and say, hey, dispatcher, do the reverse 911 and tell everybody they can go back in, until the dispatcher prompted him to do that about an hour later, just a little bit less than an hour later, and then they did tell everybody it's all fine. So, and you had talked about in your email about putting a banner on the webpage or something saying shelter in place and all this information. So the problem with that is, we had 2 cops out there. Sometimes we only have 1, right? There is just really no way for that police officer to make a phone call to try to put information on a banner on a website or email somebody. He's dealing with a potentially armed subject, right? So there's no information to be had by anybody except the dispatch center and the police officers that are on site, if that makes sense. Because it's all a fluid situation. Had there been a person that was armed, or if it ended up being a barricaded subject, something like that, and we end up putting a perimeter up, and then we end up calling the SWAT team out, Weld County SWAT team would come out, we would be able to set up a command post. There would be more of that would happen, but then you would expect that this was probably a long-term type situation. We're gonna wait this person out, right? Because it's dangerous to go in after them, and we don't generally do that anymore. And I think at that time, when we have a command post set up, then where there can be notifications made. But I guess I want to express to you that I'm not sure that notifying the mayor and the town board of police activity when it happens is really the right thing to do. I don't think you really want to have a lot of the information. You probably shouldn't have some of it because it's kind of a confidential privacy issue. But I will notify the town administrator when there's something, because if I get notified, if I'm off duty, I don't get notified unless it's something, you have a shooting, you have a barricaded subject, you have the police officers are paid to go do their job, and that's what they do. It's what they know, it's what they're trained to do. They go out there. I don't get notified if they arrest somebody and take them to jail, because that happens virtually every day, believe it or not. So, well, not anymore. We can't take people to jail during COVID. So feel free, everybody's running the streets. But it's kind of a tough situation. But then if we decide to notify the mayor, if he tells me to, or he decides to notify the mayor, then I think it would be up to the mayor to disperse the information he feels necessary to the board. So I hope that helps. And any feedback or questions from anybody else is welcome too.
No, that does help. And personally, I would not want to be notified, but I just felt helpless without knowing that information. I wonder if maybe when we do the upgrade on some of these web pages, would it be possible just to have a link like shelter in place and guidelines to follow, just so people have that background information that you just shared with us?
Yeah, so
maybe that would be a simple solution.
So that way we can do something like that, but usually there's specific directions in each one, because the shelter in place reverse 911 call says something to the effect, police activity in your area, stay in your home, or it may go more in depth than that, depending on the situation. That's probably a really generic one, and that's probably what went out this time, because we didn't have any idea what we were dealing with when we called that. But it was better to be safe than not, right? So, but yeah, the calls usually give specific instructions on what you're supposed to do. So shelter in place, police activity, shelter in place, do not go outside means go outside and see what's going on. Clearly, to half the people that read that thing or get the phone call, that's what it means to half of them.
Do you happen to know, how do they get the phone numbers to contact? Because that was one of the concerns I had, was people saying, oh, my neighbor got a call and told me about it. I never got a call. Why didn't I get a call?
So it was easy and it still is easy for anybody who has a landline. It's automatic. You'll get it if you have a landline. Nobody has landlines anymore. So you have to sign up for some sort of service through the county, whether it's the weather alerts or whatever. Any of those services that give the cell phone will put you into the reverse 911 system, I think. So there's got to be some.
The same one that does the Amber Alerts?
No.
No?
Nope, that's a different system.
That's a state system? Or?
Yeah, that's a system that might even be more of a national system. That breaks right into your phone carrier. You don't get that in a text or a phone call, right? It comes on like right onto your phone. So that's different. These are reverse 911 calls. So it's a phone call that you get.
So you'd essentially have to, like you said, sign up for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did that when I moved to town years ago, and get the weather stuff when those 2 little girls were missing. I had no idea. I was out of town. I came back in the middle of it, and everybody was parked in front of my house and, at my neighbor's house. But yeah, it works. It's real simple if you go to the county webpage to sign up for it, and you just plug your cell phone number in and you get those alerts. And with the one with the 2 little girls missing, you got a follow-up call when the situation was resolved.
Is that, from my experience this past weekend, there's lots of people that aren't on that system. Is that something we might be able to include in like our next month newsletter? Just like, hey, go to this site and register, just so it's accessible. It's something fresh since we just had that in town.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask Chief if that code red, is that something because that's.
I believe the code read
this
something
month,
different.
is that different? Okay.
Yeah, that's a
there is
different.
a code
So which
red
one
that
are you
we just
gonna-
included.
Well, sign up for all of them, right? And then your phone blows up, and then you cancel all of them, all right? Because you can't handle all these other things. But yeah, I think I'll get you the information. We can put something on on the webpage for it. Or I mean, on the webpage and in the newsletter, about signing up for that.
For me, this just sort of raises a larger issue that I feel like I wonder about a lot, which is that as soon as something happens, it's on social media. You know, like a week or so ago, people were ongoing. 2 people just got taken out of their house by the police. What's that about? And I guess I'm wondering if that's something that we need to be thinking about, that people are asking questions, that they're out on social media saying, every time there's something happens, they're reporting about it. Do we need to be more proactive in, I don't want the town to get,
So
sure it's
honestly,
going on everywhere, but just sort of that question about responding to social media.
so honestly, with my experience in this field, and I guess, you know, social media and all of these things, that's an evolving thing, and it's fairly new technology, right? The last, you know, 8-10 years, I suppose, or it's really maybe less than that, that's really been taken over. And everybody wants to think every police action that's out there, they're standing there with their phone videoing it and doing a Facebook Live and yelling at the officers to why are you doing what you're doing and all of these things. I'm not going to engage with any of that. Our officers are not going to engage with any of that. If there's an active investigation going on, we cannot comment on things that are going on. The bystander that walks by because they see the police interacting with somebody and fighting with somebody or whatever, that person wants to know what's going on. We cannot tell them what's going on. We can't violate the person we're dealing with. We cannot violate that person's privacy by explaining anything to anybody outside of that incident. So we can't really be proactive in giving out information, especially that's actively happening, right? So I don't know how we address that other than just letting them do their thing, right? They can come to whatever conclusions they want. That's part of the problem right now as far as the police really don't have any defense mechanisms when these shootings happen or these things happen, because everybody jumps to whatever conclusion they're making, and the police can't really comment on it until later. So everybody's got sometimes days or weeks to make up whatever story they're making up, and then finally it comes out what happens, and then of course all the people that made that stories up don't retract their stories. So it's a phenomenon. It's growing pains in the country, I think. It's growing pains in our world. I don't know how to deal with it. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone have anything else for Chief? Okay. Appreciate it, Chief. And that, I know that's difficult because like that shelter in place, it could be happening just in a small area, and then when it goes out, it doesn't have any effect to, people up in Bella Vista or in Silver Peaks. But yeah, and it gets out there and people hear about it, and then they're immediately asking. So
yeah, there is some sort of a need or expectation now of immediate gratification, and if something's happening, I need to know what it is. You don't need to know. It's really none of your business sometimes, right?
on a need-to-know basis.
It really is. Sometimes people need to mind their stuff, right? And stop worrying about what's going on.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
Second.
Take your choice on seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. And we are adjourned at 9:11.
Everybody.